Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on your Sunday morning or Saturday evening if you're over in the States. My name's Gillian Joyce, and this morning I have the absolute pleasure of introducing you to the beautiful Brooke Adams, who also resides in the US. She has been spending a lot of her time investing in herself and developing her skills in the area of mindset, having studied with the Bob Proctor Institute and now partnering with Bob Proctor to be one of his personal coaches. So she has very kindly offered up some of her time this evening for her, evening time for her, to share with us some of her skills and expertise in this area to help us to boost our mindset as we kick off in a new year. And, also for our team, we're also heads down, bums up, chasing a new incentive. So we really want to be all in the right mind space and not letting ourselves self-sabotage. So Brooke, I'm going to hand straight over to you to share a little of your story and to get us started. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, first and foremost, for having me on. I am super excited to be here. And yes, thank you, ladies, for joining me this morning. I know for y'all that it's Saturday here for me, and we've all had a busy weekend already, but I just do appreciate everybody's time today. So I'm going to dive straight into this because I don't want to take up too much of your time on this lovely morning for you guys, but I have some really good things I'm going to be sharing with y'all. And then I do want to tell you a little bit about myself, of course. So first and foremost, of course, just like Gillian said, my name is Brooke Adams. I've been working for Bob Proctor now for about a year and absolutely love everything that I've been learning. I went from somebody who was very low self-esteem, low confidence. I was working in a job that I just did not like. I waited tables for a number of years, right? And it was just something that I felt like there was always more for me. And so my first thing that I did was I stepped into network marketing. And during my time in network marketing, I was in network marketing for about 4 years. And that was the first place I really saw people winning. And I was like, oh, okay, like I can do this. Like there's people outside of, going to a 9 to 5 that are winning. And that was something that I'd really never seen before I joined network marketing, but it always interested me. I was like, okay, like if these people can do it, I can do it, right? And so I was all gung ho when I got started. I'm like, okay, yes, I got this, Brooke. You can do it. You're smart. All this stuff, right? And then I failed miserably. And I did that for 4 years, guys. Not just 1, 2, or 3, but all 4 years that I was in network marketing, I really didn't do what I wanted to do. And I just didn't understand why, right? Like I knew I was smart. I was smarter than some of the other people that I was seeing success. And I just didn't understand it. And then I sat in the audience one day at the convention because I never stopped showing up because I just knew I wanted more, right? Like that gut feeling told me to never give up. And I was sitting in the audience at a convention and Bob Proctor walked onto stage and he started talking about something I did not know what he was talking about, y'all. I was sitting in the audience. He was talking about these things called paradigms and I didn't know what he was talking about, but it resonated with me. He said some things during his speech that really were like, oh my gosh, like this is the missing piece for me. I haven't been working on my mindset at all. Like, yeah, maybe I'd pick up a good personal development book here and there, right? Think and Grow Rich or, one of those classics, but the message never really sunk in, right? I wasn't taking the knowledge that I was learning from everything from my network marketing leaders down to that book, right? Like I had read Think and Grow Rich, but I wasn't applying anything. And Bob was up there on stage and he had everything I wanted, right? More money, more time freedom. He was healthy, right? At this point, he was like 83, 84. He's 86 now. So this was a couple of years ago. And the man just had tons of energy. And I was like, I don't know what he's doing, but I need to learn because he's got everything that I want. And that's when I started taking his courses, right? So I began with one of his smaller courses and it started me changing my mindset around money and how I viewed money. And I loved it so much that I started taking another one of his courses, right? One day I'm just sitting there, I'm listening to my videos. I've gotten in the habit of studying and he says something really profound to me. And when you have those good moments, you're like, yes, okay, I get it, right? Like I had one of those moments, right? And so I turned to my boyfriend, he's sitting on the couch and I start just yamming or, just yapping away, telling him my story. I'm telling him what Bob's talking about. And he's just got like this huge grin on his face. And it literally like stopped me in my tracks. And I was like, why are you looking at me like that? Right. And he's like, well, you're just so passionate about this. Right. And in that moment, I was like, I need to teach this to other people, because I just realized how profound it could be to change my mindset. And that was the missing key, right? Like, it had nothing to do with the fact that I didn't know enough about network marketing, or I didn't know enough about selling, or I didn't know how to attract clients, right? Like, I knew all of those things, but I hadn't worked on me, right? Like, I hadn't said that I was worthy enough for it. I hadn't said that I could do it, right? Even though, like, maybe some confidence was there, I lacked in confidence, right? And that's why I wasn't doing the things that I needed to do. Probably because I was terrified, right? Terrified about what other people were going to think. I was terrified about just having the fact of selling. I'd never really done that in my life, right? And then it was like, oh my gosh, well, when I get people on my team, am I going to be able to help them? Like, all of these things run through our minds when we are in network marketing, right? And so you really have to start to shift your mindset. You have to start to believe in yourself. So today I'm going to talk about a few things that really help me do that. One, I'm going to talk about goal creation. And then the second thing I'm going to talk about is I'm really going to talk about the power of our minds, because it's something that is just phenomenal. Like, we are just so blessed to be able to have this thing that we call a mind and an imagination, and all of these things that we can utilize to our advantage to help us succeed. So I'm going to share a few slides with you guys, because it's so much easier for me to do this if I have it up and going. So here, I'm going to get that going right now. Perfect. All right. So we're going to talk all about creation, how to create goals, how to create new beliefs. And this is going to help you guys really start to shift that mindset. I know Gillian just mentioned that y'all have this big contest going, and y'all must have some incentives for this. So I think that y'all are going to really get some good things out of this, especially if you can take what I'm saying here and adapt it and use it in your life. You're going to see some really good things. So the first thing, let's talk all about goals, right? We all know that we have to set goals in order for us to really be able to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish. And there's a reason for that, right? Like, if we don't have a goal, we don't have a direction, right? So it's like backing out of your driveway and not knowing whether you need to go to the right or to the left, right? If you don't have that point and that target to shoot for, how can your mind know which direction to go, right? Otherwise, it creates a lot of confusion if you don't have goals. You're going to find yourself doing those things that maybe you don't want to do, because you're not emotionally involved with anything that's going to get you there, right? So there's three types of goals, right? So the first one is what we know how to do, right? So this is type A. So this is everything that we've done and more, right? And a lot of people set these goals. So, like, for example, Bob talks about one day he was talking with a young gentleman at one of his seminars, and he says that this gentleman came up and asked him for help with his goal, and this gentleman, he was like, yeah, of course I'll help you. And he says, this gentleman said, well, I want to buy a new car. And Bob's like, okay, well, that's a good start. You know, cars are good, right? we need those. And he's like, okay, well, like, what kind of car do you want? And the guy said, okay, well, I want a Pontiac. And he's like, oh, well, I've drove a Pontiac. Cool. And then and Bob's like, okay, well, what kind of car do you drive now? And the guy's like, well, I drive a Pontiac. And he's like, wait, well, how old's your Pontiac? And the guy's like, well, 4 years old. And he's like, wait, so you're telling me that you know how to buy a Pontiac and that you've known how to do this for 4 years, right? He's like, that's not a good goal, right? Like, to get a car could be your goal, but you want to do something outside of your comfort zone. So not necessarily what you want to do. So then most people are like, okay, not what I know how to do. So let's go to what do I think I can do? So then maybe you pick a car that's maybe just slightly outside of your price range, right? You're like, oh, $1,000 or $2,000 more. Yeah, okay, I think I can do that, right? So, like, you would pick the next step up, right? And so that would be kind of like your B type goal. But what you really want to do when you set goals is you want to move past what you know how to do, what you think you can do, because honestly, you're just limiting yourself if you do these. You are capable of way more than this, right? So the last kind of goal that you want to do is your fantasy, right? This is where we start to use our imagination to create our goals. We don't start to use our reasoning factor, you know, that little voice inside your head that says, oh, well, maybe you can do this. Yeah, you could get there. No, this is just taking the lid off of that and literally using your imagination to create your dreams. This is what you truly want. This is that thing that pops up every now and again in your mind and you just think it's brilliant, right? Like in that moment, you're like, oh yeah, that feels right. Yeah, right. Like we all have those goals that are like, man, that feels right. It could be more freedom with your family. Maybe you want to travel. Maybe you want to buy a home. Maybe you want to move states, right? Like there are all different types of goals, but the C type of goal is what you really want to shoot for, because this is something that's going to not only excite you, but it's going to scare you at the same time, which is a great thing. The only reason we ever feel fear is because we're doing something new. And oftentimes when we get over that fear, we find out that it's freedom on the other side, and it feels really good, right? Like we realize that it's not so scary and that we can do these things, right? You've all heard those stories where somebody was paralyzed to go on a roller coaster or go skydiving or something insane, right? And then they do it and they love it, right? So they want to do it again. This is like setting big goals. You want to set those goals that you truly want, that are going to push you, that are going to give you order, right, in your mind, and say, hey, like, let's go after this, right? Like there was a point in time where we never thought that we were going to be able to fly in the air, right? Like, or talk to people on a telephone. Like we're talking on Zoom right now. I'm in the United States. You guys are in Aussie. Like that's insane in itself, right? It all started with an idea, guys. It all started with somebody saying, man, that would be super cool. I want to do that, right? And you guys can do it too. So Napoleon Hill, this is one of my favorite quotes. He says, whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe it can achieve, right? So he's basically saying, if you can picture it, right? Like you can think of it in your mind, you can achieve it, right? Like I always like to use this example because it's just kind of a little bit funny, and I don't know, I just grown to like it here in recent weeks or so. And I say, you know, I like to ask people this question. Have you ever seen a unicorn? Most people are going to tell you, well, no, Brooke, unicorns don't actually exist, right? But if I were to ask you what a unicorn looks like, you'd be able to tell me, right? You'd be able to tell me that they're white and that they're magical and that they have one horn and they're really cute, you know, and little girls tend to like them, right? So, you know, you'd be able to tell it to me. And that was all just something that somebody conceived within their mind and decided to draw on the piece of paper, right? It doesn't exist, but they could see it. And so you can literally create anything you want and you can make it a reality, right? So what are two things you must know in order to really create that wealth and improve your quality of life? Well, one thing is you got to know where you're at, right? We often kind of overlook this point. We're like, oh, well, okay, we're going to set a goal. We know where we're going. That's what we really want, right? Like, and goals are super important, but it's also really important to know where you're at and be super honest with yourself where you're at. Like, are you in the mindset that you need to be? Are you taking actions that you need to take every day, right? Like these are important things to know. And we often overlook that because we're so focused on what? Where we're going, right? Almost every single one of us has a goal in one way or another, right? Whether we really know it or not. Some of us have goals that we have up in our head, but we haven't written down yet, right? Like, but they're there, right? Like, so we need to know where we're going, where we are and where we're going, right? So most of the time we have that covered, right? So why are so many people stuck? Like we have these goals, right? Like we know we want to get there, but we don't understand why we can't. Kind of like what I was saying in the beginning with myself, right? That's because of this little thing called a paradigm, right? Your paradigm controls a lot more than you think that it does. So what is a paradigm and what does it control, right? Well, one, it's a multitude of habits, right? It's stored in a section of your subconscious mind, right? These habits could have been picked up from your parents, from your teachers, your grandparents, your friends, yourself, the TV, social media, all these things, right? And what do? Well, the paradigm literally controls about 96 to 98% of your behavior every single day, right? So it's your operating system, it's your guidance system, right? It's your beliefs about yourself and your world. And it controls so much. It controls our effectiveness, our behavior, our ability to earn money, our productivity. All of these things are going to stem back to these little things called paradigms. And when Bob told me that my paradigm could be keeping me stuck and that it was literally the habits that I was doing every single day, it really opened up my eyes, right? Because I realized, well, man, that means that I just have not had some good habits. And I'm doing them every day. And I've probably been doing them for years, right? but it was always that little voice inside my head that told me to keep going, right? And they control you guys too, right? So like, we need to understand what the mind is as well, right? Like I was kind of talking to you guys about, the paradigm lies in the subconscious mind, right? So a lot of the people get the mind and the brain confused a little bit, right? Like most people, when I ask, okay, what is the mind? They automatically say, or they picture their brain, right? Well, that's because most people don't have a picture of the mind. The mind is very different from our brain. Our brain's kind of like the electronic switching station. It tells our thoughts and ideas and emotions and all those things where to go. Whereas our mind kind of gives them those thoughts, right? It gives them the direction. So we take in energy from the universe, we create thoughts with this energy, and then we direct those thoughts and that energy by using our brains, right? They help us do that, right? So it's in every single cell of your being. It's not just your brain. It's going to be in your fingernails and your fingers and your hands and your toes and you're everywhere, right? It's going to consist of two main parts. Now, of course, many psychologists are going to tell you that it consists of many more parts than that, right? But just for now, we're going to go into the two main parts that are going to be important for us tonight. It's the instrument which controls the body, right? And most people, like I said, don't have a picture of the mind. Well, we're in luck because a man named Dr. Thurman Fleet back in 1937, he drew us a picture of the mind. Because we think in pictures. If I were to stop you right now, right in the middle of this presentation and say, okay, what does your car look like? You'd be able to tell me, right? If I asked you if it had 2 doors or 4 doors, you could once again tell me. If I asked you if it was large or small, you could once again tell me. And then if I go and I switch and I say, okay, well, what color is your refrigerator door? Once again, you'd be able to picture your refrigerator. And then I could ask you, well, does it have 2 doors, 1 door? Does it open from the right or the left? And maybe you might have to stare off into space for a second to think about, right? What color that is. Does it open from the right or the left? And all of a sudden you're transported to your kitchen and you're thinking about it and you can see which way it opens, right? Well, we need that because we think in pictures. So we need a picture of the mind to fully understand it. And Bob said this little drawing really changed his life because he'd been doing this, but he just didn't understand it. And so this is what we're going to use for our picture of our mind. And I know it looks kind of silly, right? We call it the stick person drawing. It looks like, a 4-year-old could have drawn it, but the great thing is it is going to bring order to your mind. If you start to see yourself and everybody else like this, you're going to really start to understand people a lot, right? So 2 parts of the mind: conscious mind, subconscious mind, right? And then we have our body. So we'll represent our head. Everything from the neck up is going to be representing it with the large circle. Everything from the neck down is the body, right? And so if we picture that on everybody, we're going to understand that everybody has these conscious and subconscious minds, right? And so what do they do for us? Well, the conscious mind is our thinking mind, right? It gives us the ability to think. It's our educated mind. It's where we collect knowledge, right? We go to school, we get all this knowledge, right? And it's stored up in our conscious mind. It's our intellect, right? It gives us the ability to think and reason all these spectacular things, right? Our imagination lies up there as well, right? Whereas our subconscious mind's a little bit different. It's our emotional mind. It's where we feel things, right? So it all starts in the conscious mind. We create those thoughts. Those thoughts create emotion, right? So in our conscious mind, we get to choose to accept or reject any thought that comes into our mind, right? I'm talking about any idea, any concept. It doesn't matter what it is. We can choose to accept it or reject it, but we can also originate our own ideas as well. Whereas the subconscious mind, totally different. It has to accept what it's given. It cannot reject. And what the great part is, it cannot determine what's between real and what's imagined, right? So we can picture how we want ourselves to be. We can picture how we want our lives to be. And we can actually truly begin to feel those emotions as if it were happening in our reality right now. And that's because we can choose to accept these ideas that we want in our mind. So what does that do? Well, we get everything from our outside world, right? Radio, news, other people, social media. And like I said, we can choose to accept and reject all sorts of thoughts. There's so many going on in your head every single day. Tell them, don't try. It won't work, I promise. Right? So everything comes into the our conscious mind where we create thoughts, right? And these thoughts lead to our self-image, right? So this is where we really start to get deep within this, right? Like we have thoughts, behaviors, habits, things that we picked up as our childhood that have created our self-image. This dictates if we think we're worthy enough to earn a lot of money, if we're worthy enough to be a leader, if we're worthy enough to be healthy, or anything that we want, right? Like our self-image really dictates that, and that lies there with our paradigm, right? So within that paradigm, you have that self-image, that image that you project not only to your outside world, but the one that you really truly feel about yourself, that you wake up and say, hey, this is who I am every single day, right? And that actually is going to put your body into a vibration, right? So you've got your thoughts, which you get emotionally involved in, which become habits. You have a self-image, right? And all of that creates your vibration, which eventually is going to lead to the results that you're getting every single day. So that would go back to, well, okay, we've got to change something, right? Like if we don't want to keep getting the same results we're getting every single day, we want to move past those results, right? We have got to start to change our thoughts, and then we've got to start to change our habits, the way we see ourselves. And that is eventually going to put us in a new vibration, which will cause us to act differently, which will lead us to new results, right? You can never change things by fighting this existing reality. To change something, you have to build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete, right? Like it's coming out with the flip phone was amazing, right? Like you all remember the flip phone and everybody went crazy because it was a flip phone. And then all of a sudden they come out with the iPhone and you're like, what? Mind blown, right? They didn't try to like fight that existing reality or anything like that. They invented something completely new. And guess what? You can reinvent yourself too. That's exactly what you can do, right? Like you can do absolutely anything that you want. And it just takes a few things, right? You got to start believing in yourself. You got to set some really big goals. And then you've got to really get that support system that's going to help keep you accountable. Most of the time, if we don't have a mentor or a coach or somebody that we can just talk to about these things, we tend to let our paradigms and our limiting beliefs and things that maybe we just don't even know we have, they tend to take control of our life. And that's just simply because that's how we're programmed, right? So do some of these things, right? Set those big worthy goals, right? Start to read and learn more about your mindset and how you can start to really change and make habits that stick, right? Start to really believe in yourself. All of these things are going to help y'all so much, right? Like just doing just a few little things that seem very simple, but in reality, it takes some work, right? I really didn't understand this when I first started my journey. I thought, okay, like I can do this, right? Like, and I didn't think I really needed to change. And then I started learning about mindset. And even then, I was still caught up in my old ways and my old habits and my old self image and my old paradigm was kind of holding me back. And then you slowly start to realize that it is possible for you, right? And if you keep studying and you keep growing and you keep learning and you keep trying and fighting and doing everything you can, right? And you start to change the way you see yourself, then things start to open up. Then you start to manifest those things that you need, right? To help you create success. Because that's what we're meant to do, right? And it just absolutely changes anything. And if you guys have liked what I've said here today, feel free to join my group. I'll leave it up here for just a minute for you guys to look over. I share tons of information with my business partner, Simone. She is a holistic health coach. And she's also a Bob Proctor consultant. And so we really help people, make those healthy decisions, make those start to change the way they see themselves. So I hope you guys enjoyed everything tonight. And then if anybody has questions, feel free to let me know and I can answer those as well.
Oh, Brooke, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. And it's just that reminder once again that really it's about our thoughts. That's where we're starting. So we need to really work on that. What are we immersing ourselves in? What actions do we take each day to make it a positive thought? I am a big advocate for starting your day right, getting up early, getting your body moving, getting your mind going.
That's right. Yes.
Starting it that way, and then also ending your day that way as well, just having that switch off the technology, kick into that evening routine. So absolutely loved and resonated with everything that you've shared this evening. I appreciate that. Julie's
Yes,
saying that was
amazing.
fantastic. She loved it.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
good. I'm so glad.
Did anyone have any
Amazing.
questions for Brooke at all before she finishes up? Looks like
No worries. I don't bite.
that's okay. I will share your group into our messenger thread as well, just so that the other
Thank you so much.
weren't able to jump on, and I'll share the recording as well. But thank you so much for your
time. Thank y'all. I appreciate it so much. And yes, if anybody ever has any questions and you guys just want to reach out, y'all feel free to message me, because I'm always here to help and learn and grow. And I know that's what we're all doing. So I love it.
I can see, like, you've obviously done so much work for yourself, like within yourself over that couple of years, and yeah, the confidence is oozing out. So
well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much.